countries that's had large outbreaks that was able to flatten the curve, and they did things that we could have done, which leads to a conversation about a void of experts in the White House, leading to a collapse in our ability to respond. But they took measures from the get-go, acting quickly from the start, widespread testing, contact tracing, along with critical support from citizens, reminding citizens constantly through mass messages and broadcasts to wear masks and take preventive measures. They had masks.
Keep this chart up for a second, because I want everybody to look at South Korea. You will notice that the South Korean line has flattened. South Korea, well, the United States, we're skyrocketing, the fastest infections in the world. You'll notice that we're closer to the doubling every 2 days, instead of even Italy's on the other side of their infections doubling every 3 days. South Korea, which is completely flatlined now, South Korea and the United States both had their first reported infection on the same day. South Korean leaders got together, as that Reuters article explains, in the basement of a train station and said, a crisis is coming, a storm is coming, get your testing ready. This is the only way we'll be able to stop the spread. Within a week, the South Koreans had a test ready to go. Within a month, they had drive-up testing all across the country. The President of the United States at that same time was saying that there was only one person from China. It was no problem. It was going away.
And he had fired all of his experts.
He fired all of his experts. He fired the pandemic panel. A week later, the president was saying, oh, we only have 15 cases, but it will soon be down to zero. While the president was telling you that this was not a crisis, the South Koreans were busily working, getting ventilators, getting masks, getting testing gloves, and getting testing. Now, as I've said here for the past 2 weeks, we'll judge the president on what he did in the fall. A lot of people claim they like what the president's doing right now. That's democracy. Fantastic. So we'll judge the president by what he does in the fall. Right now, going back and focusing on that is not really helpful. That's why we're doing it in a limited way. But Jonathan Lemire, when he has that track record, and he has put us in this position where now, again, 2.2 million Americans will die if we don't work aggressively on this, according to the top health experts in the world, the top scientists in the world, the top doctors in the world. And you have a president that's now trying to rush Americans back, won't lock down the country like even India is doing, even Italy has done, even Spain has done, even Boris Johnson in Great Britain has done. You just sit here and you wonder, what's going through the president's mind right now? I ask you that, Jonathan. You report on him with the stakes so high that more Americans could die than died in every war since 1776. It's not me. It's not Robert Mueller saying that. It's not Nancy Pelosi saying that. It's scientists who are Republicans, scientists who are Democrats, scientists who are independent, scientists who don't really give a damn about politics are saying that. And the White House has seen that study, as you know. They saw it last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, and it scared the hell out of them. I know. Because they told me it scared the hell out of them. But, Jonathan, how do they go from that and talking about how horrible this is going to be last weekend to now having the president say this weekend and again yesterday, we're going to be open for business right as the storm crashes on shore?
The surge in United States cases that you pointed out is disturbing and only growing. And in a moment first about New York City, also New York University had announced yesterday that medical students, fourth-year medical students who are on track to graduate in a few months, can graduate now if they have the credits, so they can be called up to the front lines of this right now, so they can start working in emergency rooms and hospitals right now. New York City is going to need that. New York City, of course, is the home of this show and so many people who work here and appear on it. New York's been through a lot of dark days. One September Tuesday, nearly 20 years ago in particular. New York will get through this, but this is going to be hard. And that's the message from Governor Cuomo yesterday, is that we have some very dark days ahead in the next couple of weeks. And what was a plaintive cry to the White House for help, one that has largely fallen on deaf ears. The White House did say there was yesterday, after Cuomo appeared, that another 4,000 ventilators from the federal stockpile will come to New York State, but much more is needed. And you saw in that clip you played at the very top of the show how this works. The president needs to be flattered. His aides have warned governors that they need to do that they need to play nicely with him. They need to. There's no suggestion yet that the government has deliberately withheld equipment from the states, but there is a fear among the states that they might. So you're seeing governors like Cuomo and Newsom, who are usually rather antagonistic to this White House, trying to flatter the president in television appearances to try to hurry him along, to try to press him into fully mobilizing and using the Defense Production Act, which to this point has not happened. We talked yesterday, Joe. The president is impatient, he's angry, he's willing to break with his health officials. We saw some subtle pushback yesterday from Dr. Fauci and others from the White House podium, suggesting that that Easter timeline was unrealistic. It's probably going to take more than subtle pushback to change the president. Now, of course, the country's not going to go back to business entirely in a few weeks. It's going to be, looks like the current plan is there'll be some isolation. The hot spots, the New Yorks, the Californias, the Washington states, will largely stay locked down. Of course, it's the governors who have the final say. The president didn't impose the lockdown measures. He can't lift them. But there's going to be a move to try to get a lot of this country back to work in a few weeks. It'll be past that 15-day window. That'll come to an end in a few days. But Easter Sunday appears to be the target, even though by nearly every measure, every study, every health expert, that is wildly premature, that is weeks premature, Joe, and could only lead to the spread to other places, other perhaps rural parts of this country, other parts with lots of senior citizens like Florida, like Arizona, parts of the country that don't have the health care system that New York has. New York's is overwhelmed now, and the density plays a role in that, but other parts of this country are going to be just as hard hit in a matter of weeks.
Well, New York's overwhelmed now, and the worst is yet to come. The next 2 weeks are going to be horrible, especially for the city. And you are going to see scenes out of Italy if Governor Cuomo's pleas are not heard. And even if they are heard, I think the window's already closed on New York City. The tragedy is coming. The United States government needs to perform triage now and throw everything it has at New York. Because as Andrew Cuomo said, they're just at the tip of the spear. This is going to happen all across the country in the coming days and weeks and months. You know, John Meacham, this